Should you see Why Don't You Play in Hell? Why don't you play in hell? Well, that sounds a little aggressive, right? Look, I'm gonna do this review in the reverse order I usually do things because I really want to dig into the deeper themes of this movie. Now, that is gonna require some spoilers, so I'll do the spoiler-free bit right out of the gate and then let you know when things are about to get spoilery. To answer the question, should you see Why Don't You Play in Hell, the answer's probably going to be no, unless you happen to be a mega cinema nerd who loves comedies with buckets of blood and uncomfortable satire that cuts to the bone, often literally. If I had to give this movie a score out of 5, I would personally give it a 4.5. In my view, it's midway between awesome and perfect. Katie gave it a 4 out of 5. By way of second opinions, here are some aggregate scores for Why Don't You Play in Hell. IMDb gives it 7.2 stars out of 10. Adjusted to fit my scale, that comes out roughly to a 3.6, so IMDb thinks it's close to awesome. Metacritic gave it a 68 out of 100. Adjusted to fit my scale, that's roughly a 3.4, so Metacritic thinks it's a solid pretty good. And Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 81% out of 100. Adjusted to fit my scale, that's roughly a 4, so Rotten Tomatoes thinks Why Don't You Play in Hell is awesome. Now, we're gonna be talking minor spoilers, so if you haven't seen this hot fried slice of insanity and you want to see it with no expectations, go do that. For everyone else, here are my thoughts on director Sion Sono's masterpiece. The film sets an odd tone from the very first few scenes. A young girl shills toothpaste in a commercial while singing a cute, catchy song. A group of preteen filmmakers film a local gang's tussle while shouting acting directions at them, much to their confusion. These first few scenes hit the bell of tonal juxtaposition with a sledgehammer. The rest of the movie rides this exaggerated, joyful, violent note right up until the closing credits. Our protagonists are filmmakers who cannot tell fiction from reality, which turns their craft into a slightly sickening yet giddy form of voyeurism. Speaking of sickening, giddy voyeurism, the viewer is going to be feeling this way frequently while participating in the story by watching it. Sion Sono walks a very fine line by crafting a narrative which wildly celebrates the passion of filmmaking, while also calling it out as being kind of a pathetic goal at the same time. It's a loving ribbing of the art form and its artists, if by loving you mean cocaine-coated and by ribbing you mean a chainsaw to the face. That's not to mean the story has the snarky, condescending hipster attitude of a Coen Brothers film. It fully celebrates everything it destroys, drinking the blood of its victims to gain their power. Why Don't You Play in Hell launches a full-scale assault on the very idea that obsession, nostalgia, and fanboyism are in any way admirable qualities. Every single character has a heightened fixation of some kind. The Yakuza boss who thinks he'd be a better father for an adorable girl than her current one. The would-be director who's obsessed with cinema yet has never finished a single film. The hapless romantic fixated on the woman of his dreams whose father is dead set on killing him. Every character is driven by an acute obsession or nostalgia, and every character is utterly pathetic as a result. This isn't to say they're uninteresting or saddening to watch. No, this movie is laugh-out-loud funny and delights in its characters while also capturing their own pitiful self-destruction. Their fanboy-level focus on one singular thing strips them from reality, like paint thinner splashed on a masterpiece. In the characters' world, reality cannot compete with their fantasies. Obsession, nostalgia, and living in their own fantasy world leads to utter destruction. Stripped down, the movie works as both a scathing condemnation of and glittery celebration of the mere concept of pop culture as a shallow, self-destructive, and pathetic drug whose participants willingly strip themselves away from everything real in a desperate attempt to inject some kind of meaning and passion into what would simply be a white-bread, lackluster life. Now that sounds a little harsh. That sounds a little harsh because it is harsh. Despite this bitter pill, Siono's film never suggests we pity the pathetic characters camping out in front of the cinema weeks before the next Marvel Star Wars Transformers sequel spin-off remake comes out. The film suggests these characters are joyful in their own pathetic decay, and we, as their audience, shouldn't pity them, but instead should delight in the absurdist fun they're having despite their pathetic decay. As you may have guessed, this is not a movie everyone's going to enjoy. Wildly gory, directly confrontational, aggressively cheerful, and oddly charming, Why Don't You Play in Hell is hands down the most entertaining act of self-mutilation put to film. Because you get the sense while watching, the film isn't a weapon Sion Sono is wielding against hapless convention nerds. No, this is a movie he made to call out himself. And if you're the right kind of insane, as I consider myself to be, this is a movie with a message that punches you right in the gut while clapping you on the back. And when it's all over, if you're anything like us weirdos at Hungry Creature, you'll be grinning from ear to ear. Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. If you didn't, don't. We rotate through a series of shows, so there's always something new for you. We also have 2 stores. There's the Hungry Creature Boutique and the Cool People Cool Store. Also, if you like the music you heard in this episode, check out Fractal Impulse on Facebook and Bandcamp and Instagram, whatever social media, and all that stuff. Yeah, cool. Bye.